I can testify that difficulties, or as the scripture calls them, the refiner's fire, have oftentimes been the path of most resistance, not least resistance, in the path of most resistance, and have also been what I needed to purify me, to get dross to come to the top. When they melt silver or gold, that's when the stuff comes up that's not supposed to be at the impurities, and then it's skimmed off. And so difficulties will present themselves in our lives so that we can look at what matters and so that some of the dross can come up. Now, some people, what happens is the dross comes up, but they never allow the Lord to skim it off. And then when the cooling happens, they've become calcified, and that dross, that nasty stuff, is all still right there. They don't become better, they become bitter. So going through difficulties is no guarantee that we are going to become better men and women. But nevertheless, God uses those stresses and those struggles to help us prioritize what matters and to assess our lives, hopefully looking forward to the day of judgment. All right? And what I want to challenge you to think about is this. In our time management, all right, there is a direct connection between our time management and working out our salvation with fear and trembling. Because the way we spend our time reflects what matters to us. So if I'm spending 12 hours a week watching the NFL and no hours a week trying, let's say, to save a baby's life from abortion, then that shows what my priorities are. And if I say that, well, I love my kids, but I spend 10 hours a week, watching sports scores, and when my son or my daughter comes in the room and says, Daddy, will you play catch with me? Or Daddy, will you do this with me? I say, go away, I'm busy. And I'm like the statistic that says I spend 2 minutes a day talking to my child, but God knows how many hours on my godless device. Then again, something is out of whack. And this also goes to what matters nationally. So I started off this segment saying, this show talking about that there is a hierarchy, okay? There are things that matter. And there are things that matter on a national level and on a local level, and how we spend our time dealing with those things. And the ability to have an experience with Christ and to raise our children in the faith is directly impacted by what's going on around us in the public square, in the body politic. In other words, the fact that our government legalized pornography, all right, a generation ago, and now it's flooding in on computers and on our devices. The fact that the government legalized the murder of babies. The fact that the courts have opened the door, the floodgate for so-called same-sex, same-gender marriage. All of these things and many others are having an impact on the souls of our children and may affect, God please forbid, God please save us, may affect where some of them spend eternity. I would venture to guess that there's a lot more people going to hell per capita from, say, Saudi Arabia, where the gospel is not allowed to be preached and people are living and dying without Christ, or in China, than in a free country where the gospel can be preached and people can embrace Christ. So us fighting for justice and liberty in the public square can have a direct impact on the gospel and who gets to hear it, who gets to live it, and who gets to enjoy the good news and spend eternity in heaven. So these things that we might think, oh, politics is of the world. Hey, don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. Christ is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and you better believe that political issues and what happens in government and what happens in our culture matters to him, because it will impact where we and our children spend eternity. This is the Voice of Resistance. I'll be right back.